My name is Mia, and I'm 34 years old. 3 years ago, I married Matthew after dating for 2 years. Lately, though, we've struggled to conceive, and over the past 6 months, I've felt a growing distance between us. Matthew is busy running his company and is on track to become the next president. He often attends company events, which means late nights filled with drinking and socializing. I've convinced myself that once we have a child, things will change, so I've overlooked some of his behavior and continued to support him. His parents, especially my father-in-law Kevin, are very kind and treat me like their own daughter. One evening, while preparing dinner, I received a text from Matthew. "I've got a drinking party tonight, so I won't need dinner. Not sure what time I'll be back." It was a familiar, disappointing message. "Again? You did the same yesterday. Are you sure everything is okay?" I reminded him that he'd come home late the night before after drinking with colleagues. "Are you being sarcastic? Stop that. I'm not just a carefree housewife, Mia. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just worried. And yes, I'm a housewife, but it's not like I'm lounging around doing nothing." "So what? You're busy then?" "It's not like you can be busy when we don't have kids." There you go again, blaming me for our childlessness. Our conversations always end up like this. Matthew looked at me with frustration. "It's the truth, isn't it? We've been married for 3 years, and it's strange we don't have kids yet. The test showed no issues. It must just be about timing, but your drinking parties have increased, and we hardly spend time together. Can't we make an effort to connect?" I gathered my courage to suggest we prioritize our time together for our future. It's true we see less of each other, but I'm busy with work because I'm on track to be president. You understand that, right? "Yes, I understand, but when our lives pass like ships in the night, it makes me anxious." "I see. I'll try to come home earlier, but tonight, I won't be back until late." With that, he left for his drinking party. When he finally came home just before dawn, he promised to make time for us, but I couldn't shake my anxiety about whether he meant it. One day, we received an invitation to dinner at Matthew's family home. Though he seemed hesitant, we decided to go together. While I helped his mother, Emily, prepare the meal in the kitchen, I overheard Kevin and Matthew talking in the living room. "You've been busy lately, but you are coming home, right?" "What did Mia say?" "Mia? I haven't heard from her. Why, is there something you want to talk about?" "Nothing," Matthew replied, sounding uneasy. "Why the sudden concern? Are you worried I'm not coming home?" "No, I do come home. I've just had a lot of drinking parties recently, so sometimes I get back late. I thought you might have heard something from Mia." "Don't start that. All I hear from Mia is that you're working hard." Matthew seemed flustered, realizing he had slipped up. "I've told you to take care of Mia. You need to come home right after work. I doubt there are that many drinking parties at the company. Are there? You know I dislike unnecessary drinking." Matthew appeared troubled and glanced my way, and I quickly turned my head, trying to avoid his gaze. "Kevin doesn't like unnecessary drinking parties. He comes home right after work," Emily chimed in. I recalled Matthew mentioning that their company's drinking parties were fewer compared to others when we first started dating. "I'm responsible for a very important client," he explained. "You may be the president, but you don't know everything, right?" Kevin replied, nodding. "This client really enjoys drinking parties. I'm attending for the company's sake." Matthew glanced at me again, and I barely avoided his eyes. "Well, work is work. There may be unavoidable parties, but if you don't cherish Mia, you'll end up unhappy. Think about that," Kevin advised. "Yes, I understand," Matthew responded, though his tone was reluctant. Perhaps Kevin's words struck a chord because Matthew started coming home earlier more often. We began to have dinner together and enjoy more quality time as a couple. Just like before, I was grateful to Kevin for his intervention. Then one morning, I suddenly felt unwell and decided to visit the hospital. They suggested I take a pregnancy test, and to my astonishment, I found out I was pregnant. I was overjoyed. I immediately called Matthew to share the news. "What's up? I'm busy at work." "Sorry for the sudden call, but I wanted to tell you something as soon as possible." "What is it?" I was so filled with excitement that I could barely contain myself. "I wanted to tell you in person, but I couldn't wait until tonight. We're going to be parents." "What do you mean?" "I'm pregnant. I felt unwell this morning, went to the hospital, and they confirmed it. I'm really pregnant." I blurted it all out in one breath, but there was silence on the other end of the line. "Matthew? I'm here, that's great news, but I'm really busy right now. Let's talk more tonight. I have to go. Sorry for interrupting you when you're busy. I just wanted you to know as soon as possible." "Yeah, we'll discuss it tonight." After hanging up, a wave of anxiety washed over me. He didn't even say congratulations. Matthew wanted a child too, didn't he? A sense of unease settled in, but I couldn't help my excitement about our long-awaited baby. I was filled with joy and eagerly anticipated Matthew's return to talk about our future together. But when Matthew finally came home, it was late and he was clearly drunk. "I'm home." "What, you've been drinking?" "So what if I have?" he shot back, irritation etched on his face. "It's not just about the drinking. I've been waiting all day to talk about the baby and our future. Oh, that? Aren't you happy? Of course, I'm happy. This is our long-awaited pregnancy. Then you should have come home early to hear what I had to say. You show up drunk like this. I felt a surge of frustration. I wanted him to be excited too, to share in our joy. His attitude made me feel completely deflated. What? I came home early, didn't I? I could have stayed out all night, but I thought about you and decided to come back. Stayed out all night? Why would today be an overnight stay? If you really thought about me, you wouldn't have gone drinking in the first place. Do you want a divorce then? I froze, shocked by his sudden mention of divorce. We'd argued before, but we had never discussed separation. Divorce? That's not something you bring up when we've just found out we're having a child. True, Mia, but let's be honest, you can't divorce me, can you? Your parents have a small business barely enough for them. My dad's company is much bigger, you know that. Why are you bringing up my dad's company? Because if we divorce, you'll have nowhere to go. Your dad's company isn't thriving, and it could be in trouble soon, right? That's not true. I've heard dad's company is doing well, and why do you keep insisting that's the issue? It's not. Doing well, that company? I felt my anger rising at his dismissive words. Mia, you need to understand that if you divorce me, you'd be in a tough spot, do you get that? So whether I drink or come home late, you can't complain, and don't expect me to take on childcare responsibilities. I'm busy with work. I'm going to be the next president, remember? You need to handle everything. Matthew snapped back, frustration clear in his voice. I rushed to the bathroom, tears of frustration streaming down my face. Why did he have to belittle my dad's company so much? Why couldn't he just say, congratulations? Didn't he want a child, too? Raising a child together was my deepest desire. I hated the thought of worrying my parents, especially my dad, who always fretted about me visiting home alone. Since we got married, Matthew had never once accompanied me to my parents' house, always citing work as the excuse. I convinced myself that once the baby arrived, he would step up and embrace his role as a father. We tried to forget the night he came home drunk and moved on, but soon it became clear that Matthew was slipping back into his old habits. His late nights were becoming more frequent, and it felt as though we had reverted to the time before the pregnancy. I had hoped to cherish our moments together before the baby's arrival, but instead, we were back to barely communicating, and he kept coming home late. One day, Kevin invited us to go shopping. When I announced my pregnancy, my in-laws were overjoyed and kept asking about my health. Mia, how are you feeling? Kevin greeted me as soon as I arrived. Thank you, the baby and I are doing well. Great to hear. We thought it would be nice to shop for baby items today. Don't worry about carrying everything. Matthew and I will help, he said with a warm smile. Matthew, as usual, seemed reluctant. He had gone drinking the night before and returned home at dawn, but he couldn't refuse his dad's invitation. Shopping with the baby in mind was enjoyable, and before I knew it, our cart was overflowing with items. Kevin initially offered to pay, but since he had already purchased the larger items, we insisted on covering this trip ourselves. I pushed the cart to the register. How much would you like to pay? The cashier asked. Just put it on my card, please, I replied, but then an unexpected sound rang out. I'm sorry, but this card isn't going through. Panic surged through me as I called Matthew over. I don't understand, my card isn't working, could you use yours for now? Without saying a word, Matthew took out his card and paid. Afterward, I asked, what's wrong with my card? Your card worked just fine a moment ago. His reply was shocking. It's been cancelled because we're divorced. Time seemed to freeze. I was speechless. After a moment, I managed to stammer. Excuse me, you're joking, right? It's no joke. We're divorced. The papers have already been filed. Wait, I don't remember signing any divorce papers. Don't you recall that big fight we had? You signed the divorce papers I brought. Suddenly, Matthew's words triggered a memory of a heated argument early in our marriage when I had signed something in a fit of anger. We had made up the next day, laughing it off as a moment of madness. Kevin and Emily stared at us, wide-eyed and shocked. Do you remember now? Matthew pressed. I can't believe you kept it all this time. My anger was boiling over. Just then, Kevin, who had been rendered speechless, finally spoke up. We're done. I noticed Kevin was shaking. Dad, are you okay? What do you mean, we're done? You really filed those divorce papers? Kevin's expression was one of rage. I did, they've been processed. Things haven't been good between us for a while. Mia got pregnant during that time, but I just can't do this. Once love is gone, it doesn't return. You're trying to act tough. Our baby is about to be born. That's true, but it can't be helped, can it? I don't feel love for you anymore. I'm sorry to both of you, Mom and Dad, but please understand my selfishness, Matthew added, leaving them speechless and appalled. My heart felt like it might burst from the shock. I worried about the stress this could put on my pregnancy. I asked Kevin to call me a taxi and decided to go home. Kevin's face was pale as Matthew silently watched me leave. Once home, I couldn't stop crying, unsure of what to do. Hours passed, and I remained in a daze. Suddenly, my dad called. Mia, are you okay? Where are you? He sounded panicked. It seemed Kevin had reached out to him. I'm coming to pick you up now. Stay put. It's okay, just leave him to me. For a moment, I wasn't sure who he meant by him, but I assumed it was Matthew. Dad arrived quickly to pick me up, and I returned to my parents' house. As I spent time with Dad and Mom, I gradually regained my strength. I realized that being with someone as toxic as Matthew would only lead to unhappiness, for both me and my child. I was furious about the divorce papers being filed without my consent, but if the divorce was already finalized, then so be it. My feelings for Matthew had diminished to that extent. I didn't want to check for messages from Matthew, so I kept my distance from my phone. Knowing this, Dad seemed to be in communication with Matthew's father. Through their exchanges, I learned about the truths Matthew had been concealing. When Dad confronted me with the facts, any lingering affection I had for Matthew vanished completely. About half a month after returning home, I finally braved a glance at my phone. It was flooded with messages and missed calls from Matthew. As soon as he noticed that I had seen his texts, he called me immediately. I steeled myself and answered. Hello? Is this Mia? Finally got through. What do you want? He asked, his tone a mix of relief and urgency. I don't want to talk to you. Don't say that. I was really wrong that time. I was shocked and anxious when I suddenly heard you were pregnant. That's why I did what I did. I regret it now. Matthew launched into a string of excuses. Hearing him express regret was surprising, but I had no intention of starting over. Let's start fresh. Let's submit a marriage certificate again. We can raise the child together, he pleaded. Did you break up with your affair partner? My voice was colder than I intended. Did Dad tell you? I really am sorry. I regret it now. I've ended things with her. Matthew had been cheating on me even before I got pregnant. It started around the time I sensed our paths were diverging 6 months ago. His late nights were all lies, disguising his meetings with her, a junior at his company. My dad had discreetly hired a detective, worried about me, to confirm my suspicions. Later, I learned, if we get married again. What about your job? You know about that too? I think I can return to work if I can start over with you. Mia, please help me. It turned out that Matthew's dad's company was in financial trouble, struggling with debts. He had turned to my dad for help. Dad's company isn't large, but he's consistently done reliable work over the years, ensuring steady business and financial reserves, Dad explained. As a condition for lending the money, my dad had made Matthew's dad sign a contract stating that if Matthew ever betrayed me, all rights to his company would transfer to my dad. At the time, they had no reason to believe Matthew would betray me, but everything was documented. Now it made sense why Matthew's dad had been so affectionate toward me. He never thought his son would actually betray me. Furious with Matthew for divorcing me without consulting anyone, he had fired him from the company and told him to leave the house. Matthew was trying to reconcile with me to avoid the fallout. I have no intention of marrying you again. I will never forgive what you did, cheating and hiding it, abandoning me when I got pregnant, and filing for a divorce on your own. But I'm truly sorry. It's unfair for our child to grow up without a father. I'll make sure to pay child support and alimony. I have nowhere to go, no job. What am I supposed to do now? That's not my problem. Reflect on your foolishness. I finally realized how important you are to me. Please don't abandon me. In frustration, I immediately blocked Matthew's number. His father had promised to ensure alimony and child support would be paid, but that didn't concern me anymore. Since then, I've been living with my parents. I started working as an office clerk at my dad's company. My belly is growing, and I'm due next month. My parents and colleagues are warm and supportive, and I'm grateful to be back in a nurturing environment. Acknowledging his son's betrayal in the contract with my dad, Matthew's father began preparations to transfer the company. However, my dad had no intention of taking over. The money has been repaid, and I can't manage 2 companies, he said with a chuckle. Meanwhile, Matthew, cut off by his family and fired from his job, struggled to make ends meet with part-time work. As for me, I'm focusing on enjoying my job and life with my child, hopeful that this happiness will continue.